All is going well with PowerPoints. Hope all is um, treating you well with this last week before Thanksgiving. We got everything in, and I'll put up your final exam this week. It will be the self assessment. Um, so, uh, with that said, finishing up again on chapter 14, the last chapter in the book. It's adults and aging services. We went over last week. We had several categories from infertility to caregiving for aging parents, bereavement counseling, employee assistance, and even services for military personnel and veterans. So, with family caregiving, a national survey had almost a third of those over 18 who provide unpaid care. We said there if you are starting a family soon or early or already have one, you could be in a position where you are the sandwich generation. You're helping take care of your parents in their 50s and 60s and taking care of your children as toddlers and adolescents. So many circumstances require caregiving. That could be from Parkinson's to dementia to even special needs with an infant. And then some of the personal consequences are emotional stress related to the burden of care, and then lost productivity and other employment costs. So, and that's because maybe you have to call in sick, or you're taking care, maybe the kids don't have school again today because of the pandemic, so you can't go into work, and that's where some of the productivity is lost. With family caregiving, social work services such as case management, which we all can do with our bachelor's in social work and psychology. If you get your license in social work, you can bill Medicare and Medicaid with those services. And then if you go on to do the 1 year master's degree, you can do counseling and emotional support. So to bill for counseling and therapy, you need a master's. Maybe you'll do family counseling, something of that sort. Military social workers, so they help with counseling and crisis intervention. Sometimes surveying troops that identify problems and issues, or even working in rehabilitation services. So there are a lot of jobs, some even overseas, you can apply for as a licensed social worker. I saw one that was in Iraq 5 years ago and it paid $110,000, but they prefer you to be a military veteran for that. So lots of jobs, especially with the Affordable Care Act expansion. Military social workers also help with organizing community activities. So you could be on a base, such as Fort Benning in Georgia or one of the bases down south. There's referrals for health and mental health services. So you may refer on to a psychiatrist, psychologist, things of that nature. Now with the Employee Assistance Program, the EAPs are given out by many companies, and that is to do preventative measures usually. So EAP and MAP, there's Members Assistance Program and Employee Assistance Programs. A lot of agencies have those because they will provide 5 to 6 free mental health visits and consults with social worker and or counselors to prevent burnout, to do different things to help out in that case. Employee assistance, so the range of services, there is family issues, burnout, and addictions. So you may see some trying to get into addiction recovery. You may have to refer them out. Also, there's organizational planning and development, community service options, and workplace issues and sexual minorities, and then pre-retirement planning. So maybe even helping some of your clients do some pre-retirement, see if their 401k along with their Social Security income would be enough. Usually people get $1,000 to $2,000 a month on SSI, so you have to save in your own 401k or 403b that a lot of social work agencies have, or if you work at a place that has a pension, making sure that the pension will cover you for your small payments for the rest of your life. Hopefully by then you have a stable source of living and whatnot, which really does help. Another issue that comes up is intimate partner violence, different types. In the past, they would say that it didn't happen as often with folks that were same-sex marriages, but in the past 5 years, we've had more legal same-sex marriages, so more than ever before, and there is a lot of intimate partner violence, just as much as with heterosexual couples. Some of the dynamics being the cycle of violence, so like there'll be a honeymoon phase and then an aggression phase, an anger phase, and violence, then go back to the honeymoon, I'm sorry, honey, here's some flowers, violence, and then aggression. So they passed the Violence Against Women Act. There's a few TANF exceptions, and then service responsibilities. So as a social worker, again, our response is we are mandatory reporters, so we have to report if there is violence with children in the family or elder abuse. And then also, in the workplace, there could be violence among sexual minorities, and making sure to protect the vulnerable in our society is our job as a social worker. And then understanding the children's reactions, that knowing the trauma response and what a spiked cortisol and the brain development can do to children, which we've gone over a few times, and how we can serve them as a social worker. Elder abuse. So there's a few types: physical, psychological, and sexual abuse. That often can be in nursing homes too. You would think a nursing home is a safe place, but there is still incidences which you can look up, I guess online or your local library, of that happening in nursing homes. There's also financial exploitation. So sometimes people will take their Social Security income and say they're the caregiver for mom or dad with dementia, but are taking $800 of the $1,000 check and feeding them just enough to keep them alive, which is elder abuse. There's also abandonment, and then neglect and self-neglect. And if you start seeing those, I work at Crossroads Hospice on the weekend. And in hospice, if we do see that, that's when we do have to get them into some form of care or call the protection hotline to have it investigated. Again, we have that duty to report as social workers. So other elder abuse, there's social service responses. As mandatory reporters, social workers have to let authorities know. There's also public education and training, because sometimes it is hard to see or hard to find that the money is being stolen from an older person who their caretaker could be taking a lot of the stuff. There are other support groups for caregivers, maybe a respite. There's also adult daycare, and then multidisciplinary service teams that help care for folks that are elderly. Some services for older adults, the demographics are that by 2030, 19.2% of the US population will be over 65%. 85 plus is the fastest growing. That's actually a year that my dad would turn 85, because he just turned 76. 85 plus is the fastest growing subgroup, and then percentage of ethnic minority elders is increasing. So we live longer than ever before. There's been a slight dip in the age of men up to 80 almost, and women well above 80. The small dip was because of the opioid epidemic, maybe even coronavirus this year. There are worldwide trends of this: better medication, better health care, some food security, which that is starting to leave us in the pandemic. So setting the record straight about that we are living longer and we got to plan for a longer future, and then how to successfully age, how to live deep into that, you know, 70s and 80s. Some of the services for older adults are challenges as social workers that we have to assess personal attitudes, so like aging, illness, and death. In hospice, we do usually have folks that have 6 months or less to live, and then we have different ways that we take care of that. So usually by then, the person who is in hospice is accepting of death and welcoming care without DNR. So DNR is do not resuscitate. We also want to find ways to counteract ageism and the negative stereotypes that go along with that. We would like to learn the impact of gender and ethnic diversity on aging, and learning to work collaboratively with the caregivers, the sons and daughters that might be caring for folks, and things of that nature. Also, the area of social work that deals specifically with older folks is called gerontology. So there is a gerontological social work. And that kind of focuses on the continuum of services and social supports for healthy older adults. Community services for those who are frail, so that they have caregivers, even Meals on Wheels and other things that have come out of the different churches to take care of them. There's also institutional services for those who can't live on their own, and find ways to get them into a nursing home, and then have Medicare and Medicaid take care of the payments if they are considered indigent. More stuff on gerontological social work. So there's examples of programs and services. We have case management. Again, you can do that with a license in social work and even a degree in psychology. It's easier to bill Medicare and Medicaid if it is with social work. Also, adult day centers, so getting folks connected with those adult day centers. Multi-purpose senior services and civic engagement initiatives. So most communities, I've seen one in like the Oakley Community Center, they'll offer affordable meals and places that will cook for elderly folks that still want to live in their home. And they'll have like bingo, and some of the churches will even have different bingo and opportunities. Other supportive services for aging in place. Here's some of the table from chapter 14.1, all the resources for older adults. So there's income support, that's SSI, the income maintenance. Usually you have to be around 62 at the youngest to take it. 65 is the average age to take it. And I think if you wait till you're 70, you get the most Social Security income. There is social insurance, so OAS, DHI. For healthcare, you have Medicare and Medicaid, and some home health and homemaker aids. With nutrition, there is SNAP, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs. There's also food commodity programs, and that's from the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture helps with those. We even give some out here in Central State. And also transportation, socialization, and legal services. Speaking of elderly, I have my mom calling. We're on the last slide. So As a case manager, you will assess the needs and link clients with appropriate programs and services. You'll have meal services, and then you'll also have transportation, housing, and adult daycare respite. So that's it. See you guys